Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Startup Junkies podcast. We're excited to have you tuning in from wherever you are, however you are. My name is Caleb, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Jeff and Davis.
Hey, everybody.
How's it going?
And we are joined by a familiar face I guess if you're listening, a familiar voice, both to the show and just to Startup Junkie in general, a friend of the Startup Junkies, Edwin Ortiz. Welcome back to the show.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure.
Glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
Edwin, what's new?
Oh, man, there's so many things that are new. But yeah, we're going to talk about Rejoicy and talk about all the good things. Since we last talked, we've been accepted to Techstars. We've got some funding. And also in Jeff, we've actually had shops open up in South Africa. So we'll talk about that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So we're going on a trip to South Africa to do some,
you can get there, you just can't get back.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem.
So I think it'd be worthwhile to. So when you were here last, of course, we were talking about Launcher. So I guess let's talk about the evolution of the journey you've taken from Launcher to Rejoicy.
Sure. So I think we've taken a lot of the learnings from Launcher and identified a problem that still exists, right? So something that we've seen is there's a huge gap between where sales are happening and where small businesses are selling. So online sales up 46% year over year, yet small businesses are down in sales, and 74% of them don't have an e-commerce website today. I mean, we're in 2022, and 74% don't have a good way to sell online. So we decided to fix that. So we created this platform that empowers local merchants to create an online store with the easiest website creator in the world. So,
which is Rejoicy.
Which is Rejoicy. Yeah. And I say that seriously, like, it is the easiest website builder in the world, and we have other tools that go with it. But you can create an online store in about a minute.
Because you have all the e-commerce stuff there as well. The cart and all that is
everything.
Something that can.
Yeah. So you can even start it through text messaging. You can answer 4 questions, and it builds a website for you. It sends you your link. You go to your link, and you can add items. You can manage orders, manage inventory, do distribution. So you're able to do pickup, delivery, or shipping. It's all built in, and you can have that. Build your website in about a minute, have a full on site, and start selling in about 10 minutes.
Talk about what are the ideal customers? Talk about the mix, the kind of customers that you get on the site.
Yeah, so early on we thought it was going to be maybe less tech savvy customers. So we started researching, and what we found is the reason why that number is so large, that 74%, is there's a lot of people that have tried. There are just so many options and so many things that you have to do with the current offerings like Shopify, Wix, Squarespace, you name it, right? Yeah. They just do too much now, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's the idea that, when you're trying to create something and you're trying to edit your items, now you have a bunch of options. And as we started digging into that, we saw that it's not only those that are non-tech savvy, but those that are busy. And it's like, okay, well, every business is busy. Okay, let's figure out, how do we dig deeper into that? So we started visiting farmers markets and talking to people that sell at the farmers markets, and maybe different in some areas, but in Northwest Arkansas, the farmers markets are not all farmers. They have a lot of other, makers. We call it bakers, makers, and movers and shakers. That's really what we're seeing. And so a big portion of our customers are coming from those visits that we've done to farmers markets, but then also people that may be selling on social media, so Instagram or Facebook, that are selling through DMs. So we see them on the marketplace, it's like, oh, message me, or hey, DM me to buy this. And what we found out is it's really frustrating for them to go back and forth on pricing, or back and forth on options. So when they create a shop on Rejoicy, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to go back and forth, negotiate on pricing, or have people message them about, hey, can you make this in strawberry?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, like it's all there.
Yeah.
And they're getting a ton of value just from that.
Mm-hmm.
And not even the added sales and some of the other things that are happening. So we see that probably as our beachhead is those bakers, makers, movers and
shakers, yeah. And it's a subscription model. Is it a subscription model where they sign up for a monthly subscription? Talk a little bit about how that part of the business model works.
Yeah, so our current pricing model is you can start your website for free, and we take 5% of transactions on there, or you can switch to $35 a month.
So it's still a low threshold of paying.
Super low, very affordable, and it's very powerful. So the $35 a month allows you to be on the marketplace, but you have the ability to have, whether it's products or offer events, you can have services. It gives you the distribution options, product management, inventory management, all that.
Are there some additional professional services you add? Do you add professional services to it? Are there adders where the economics change if they need customization, or talk about that part of it?
So not today. So they're able to customize their store.
Gotcha. So they don't need to worry about having to pay your developers or anything a whole bunch of money to.
No. So that was a big part of what we wanted to do. When we look at the other competitors in this market, what we see is, Shopify has 4,000 apps, right? And they can vary in prices from a few dollars to a few $1,000s,
right?
Depending on what you need. So we wanted to simplify it a lot more, where you're paying your $35 and you know what you're going to get. You're still able to change your banner. You can change pictures. You can reorganize your products. You can create categories. You have a lot of options still, but it's all. We hold the hand of our customers and we walk them through with simple questions like, hey, what do you want to call this item? Okay, let's enter a description. Mm-hmm. Hey, do you have a picture? Or, do you want to take one with your phone? And by the way, you can do everything just with your phone. You don't even need a computer.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Which I think it's opening a lot of doors and a lot of opportunities down the road for us.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in 13 states now? Did I hear you say that?
Yeah, so we've had over 200 shops start on the platform in 13 states. Actually, 12 states plus DC. So this
well, DC wants to be a state.
Right?
A lot of arguments over that right
That's
now.
right, yeah. But we also recently had a shop, and I mentioned it earlier, out of South Africa. Just start a shop, so it's really exciting to see that the word is getting out there. Rejoicy works in 42 countries, so it's we see a lot of opportunity for the international market, but in a very hyper local way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a ton of opportunity with being able to collaborate with other local businesses
mm-hmm.
in your area that makes the offering of buying local much more appealing, and that's what we're trying to create.
How do you, when you approach those potential international markets, so what about the infrastructure of those countries allows you to be able to go in? So you said 42 countries. Why those countries? What allows you to be able to operate within there versus others?
That's a great question. So something that I think the timing is just great, because there's a lot of these tools that are now enabling things like that. So we built all of our platform over Stripe. So
mm-hmm.
we use Stripe as a payment method, and Stripe works in 42 countries.
Okay.
So what that does is it just enables that offering, and then we also use something called Stripe Connect that just allows the shops to get their payment right away instead of having to wait for for us to run payments at the end of the week or whatever. So there's certain things that are already out there, and we're trying to leverage as much as we can on the greatest and latest technologies, but then add what's needed to Rejoicy. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So what's next? What's you're in Techstars? Are you still in Techstars right now?
Yeah, so we're in Techstars Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
We're right in the middle of the program.
Okay.
We have the program ends in February, at the end of February. And so we're trying to really hone in on our customer and our messaging, our offering. We've seen a lot of traction on that, just the ability to focus on one thing, make sure that like we understand who the customer is and really try to make the value prop for them as good as we can. And that has helped us a ton. And now we're more of how do we now look at this growth and continue that while looking at raising more capital at the end of the program. So that's kind of where we're headed.
And so with an accelerator program like that, has there been you mentioned they're getting you focused on certain things? Have they chiseled away at anything?
Yeah, so it's been really interesting. I mean, if you're familiar with the Techstars program, you know this, but the way Techstars works is the first few weeks you go through something called Mentor Madness, where for 2 weeks you meet with we met with close to 40 mentors in those 2 weeks, and you get a lot of whiplash from just the different ideas and opinions from different mentors, but you start getting a pattern of feedback, and something that kept coming up that we realized was the pushback on, well, you're trying to do the SaaS and then you're also trying to do the marketplace. And those people that would love the marketplace and those people that would hate the marketplace. And then those people that love the SaaS and the our product, how easy it is to set up, and they're like, that's the only thing that you need to do. And there was others that were more of, well, no, like there needs to be more, right? And as we started looking at it, we're like, well, today we want to get more shops online. Like that is the first thing we need to do. So the way we see it is, okay, let's focus on making that portion of our value prop really clear, really clean for shops, and then we can work on the marketplace, because what we're seeing is the marketplace and some of the value is happening from shops helping other shops. Actually, most of it is coming from that. So I think a big learning there was, okay, let's focus on one thing. Let's focus on making sure that the shops love it. And once the shops love it, we can talk about, how other benefits we can add.
Build community after that.
Building community and building all that. So it's been exciting. It's been cool just to get that.
In terms of getting shops obviously on platform, how are y'all seeing that that come to fruition? I mean, local shops, obviously it's kind of hard to hear about an online marketplace kind of platform like you, but how are you kind of getting into those local marketplaces?
So honestly, one of the best ways has been, just being on the street and talking to the actual businesses. So we go to, I mentioned the farmers markets, but we'll go to events and we'll go to just meetups or contact economic development organizations, like people that are already working with these businesses and that are trying to help them. And then we try to figure out a way to add value. I think that's the first piece, is like, okay, what can we do to add value? And then we can talk about Rejoicy, and then we can talk about how we can get them online and make it better, easier than anything else. But I think the first portion has been adding value and meeting them where they are.
I mean, not having like boots on the ground per se, like in other states, has that been a problem that y'all run into, or is that something y'all are kind of working around?
So we've been working around it, but it has been in a similar way. So what we've seen is, and this was through being on the ground and meeting people, that those that are at the farmers markets are the same customers a lot of times than those that are selling on Instagram through DMs. So while we can't reach those with boots on the ground, we can find them. Right. So that's what we're doing, is we're finding who those people are, and we're adding value where they are, and that has worked really well. And then we're also doing some of the more traditional things online, like we're running some ads and we're doing some of that, but that's definitely a much smaller portion of our go-to-market strategy and the way we're seeing the traction. I think a lot of it is just finding them, meeting them, and talking to the problems that they have. Like being specific about, okay, we know this is happening and we feel like we can help. So
Yeah, finding those social media kind of sellers is definitely the right way to approach it.
With this next big raise you're going to do, how far does that take you? What are the big milestones you knock down with this next raise?
So, I mean, we see ourselves as, we want to empower all these local merchants, and we feel like there's still a lot of opportunity here in the U.S. So before we look at any international markets, we want to make sure that we have a good hold of our, of the U.S. and really helping those businesses. So what we want to do is we want to open up in other markets. We're here in Northwest Arkansas. We feel like there's an opportunity to open other areas like Tulsa. We're looking at Oklahoma City. We're looking at, so we see that as a chance for us to build that a little bit more, and then also getting a lot of other people just online, and how easy it is for them to get there today. I think there's still some opportunities, so we're planning to build more on the product.
So you're trying to make the customer acquisition such that you don't have to have local people.
Right.
You're building up brand awareness that people are finding it wherever they happen to be, and they're downloading it or doing whatever they got to do to do it themselves.
Yes. Yeah. So
that scales better than having to have armies of people all over.
100%. 100%. So yeah, I think we're trying to make it as easy as possible for them to find us, and then the onboarding is extremely easy. So that's a key. We're actually testing some new things where you may only need to enter your handle, your social media handle, to create your site. So I think there's some things that will be pretty exciting.
Calculates
very
with
cool.
all your content from your
Yeah,
handle.
if you've already created content and you already have things, I think there's some opportunities that we're exploring and are really exciting.
How has the pandemic impacted demand? Is it good? Has it been bad? How's it impacted?
I mean, I think it's been great. I think there's definitely more demand for local, but I think there's also it's not just that people don't want to go out or that people are becoming hyper aware of local businesses, but it's that local businesses are in a way solving the problem better. So when you think about supply chain and how bad things are getting in some areas, local supply chains are great. I mean, when you're able to buy the same thing in your community and get it, in a couple of hours, or get it, by tomorrow instead of waiting, a week or two. I mean, that is very powerful, and I think that is where the future is gonna go. Is like, those supply chains are gonna become closer and closer together, and that might be through people like Amazon creating more warehouses, but also by us shopping local. And those local businesses and things being produced there and sold where people are.
So I follow your newsletter, or receive your newsletter. So for those of you who don't, and you should after this, you break down what you're doing each week, how many people you've spoken to, how our businesses, and what prompted that to kind of give that level of transparency in a newsletter.
Yeah, so I mean, I think one of our cultural values is that of transparency, and we feel like if we're building something for the community should know about it. And plus, it's just a great exercise for us to go through the week and say, okay, what have we done? Like, how have we impacted businesses this week?
Set your goal, and
it sounds like that's a lot of detail you typically put in an investor report, but you're exposing it to everybody.
Yeah, we're opening it up to more. Yeah,
that's
more
interesting.
Community. So, I mean, it has worked really well. Like, we get feedback from people, and it has helped us move faster than we were just hiding it and just talking between the team, and so yeah, we like it.
This is startup number 2 for you, maybe more, but 2 that I'm aware of. You may have had other side gigs in the past. What's been the biggest surprise with Rejoicy so far? The thing that you didn't expect that has been different?
That's a great question. I think something that you don't realize, with the first one, is how much you don't have to fight against the current. I feel like a lot of times it feels like well, I want to do this, and it needs to be super hard, and everything needs to be, and I think what has been surprising here is like I've been able to take a step back and maybe see like what's out there that we can already learn from. What are things that we can leverage? Who can we talk to that may be able to give us feedback? Like you don't have to be the one falling and getting scraped to learn. Like you can. It's okay. It's okay to learn from other people. It's okay to talk about competitors. Not be scared about it. It's like, okay,
sure.
there's other options, and how can we do it better? And just be really honest with yourself on, okay, yeah, these are things that we can do better. These are things that we're not, probably never going to be able to be better than others. So I think that's been probably some of the biggest learnings that is kind of surprising, because I feel like we've made a lot more progress in a shorter period of time with Rejoicy than we did with Launcher. And I think a lot of that was just not feeling bad about learning from what's already there, and being open and being just being willing to put ourselves out there and learn from that.
So you took that first startup, leveraged what you'd learned, and leveraged the resources you had to do Rejoicy. You're not going back to the desk job anytime soon.
No, it's definitely not in my plans anytime soon. And don't get me wrong, I think there's still I have a ton of respect for people that are doing desk job, and I think there's there's definitely a function there. I just feel like my soul wouldn't be
just not for you.
Yeah,
just not for you.
At least not now, right? Who knows what happens? But I think not in the near future. I feel like there's so much more impact that's still out there to be done, and I feel like you can do a lot more when you have the flexibility and the nimbleness of being in a startup versus a large company.
Said another way, after you get the taste of doing a startup a time or two or three, you're unemployable. You can't go back and work for somebody else. It's not possible.
That's so true. Yeah,
it's not possible.
That's how entrepreneurial
it's just you start thinking
spirit.
about the scene from Office where you're worried about some ridiculous report or some internal politics, and you're like, I ain't doing that.
Yeah. That's so true.
And then you take a baseball bat to prove
Yeah, that's right. You don't want to be the guy sitting in the basement either with
yeah. So what do you do here? I alluded to that earlier, but what's next? What's after Techstars? What's the 1-year plan, 5-year plan?
So I think after Techstars ends in February, we plan to raise some more capital, and that should allow us to grow our footprint in the U.S. Let more people know about it. I think there's an opportunity to also start looking at some international markets. We feel like there's, I don't know if you guys know this, but like Latin America is the fastest growing e-commerce area. And there's certain countries that are growing way faster, like Argentina. Like if the Argentina is growing faster than any other country in terms of e-commerce adoption. And I think there's some really exciting opportunities there. But I think all this said, I think the focus from now on, I don't see it changing in 5 years, is like, how can we better serve local businesses, and how can we empower them to compete with the big guys, right? Like how can we help them crawl that business and that commerce back from the large players, because I think it's not just it would be cool to support local, but it's like communities need it. I think it's and I think we have much more vibrant communities when we buy from local businesses and makers than we do when we just focus on the current big players.
What's the target investor? Are you looking for venture capital firms the next round, or will it be a collection of angels? What are you thinking?
I think it'll probably be a mix. So we see we're thinking probably early stage VCs or angels as the next round for us. And it's interesting. So talking to the Seattle team, we talked some numbers, and I'm like, oh, that's a great pre-seed. Like that would be a good pre-seed number, and we're talking about 2 to 3 million. And when you talk about local numbers, it's like, okay, well, no, that's a solid seed for like where I come from.
That's a small Series A.
Yeah,
right. And I mean, it's a difference in context, right? Mm-hmm. Because the guys in the Valley or the guys in Seattle, you got to live 60 miles away in a trailer with 3 roommates next to the dump or the sewage treatment plant, and you're going to pay them $300,000 a head for software engineers.
You're going to hemorrhage half of that.
So the cost is ridiculous. I mean, that's why you're seeing the exodus out of a lot of those higher priced areas.
Yeah, I mean, and that I think that's a huge benefit of where we live, right? Like I think Northwest Arkansas is a gem, and I think the ability to live 10 minutes from the WeWork where we office out of, and to pay lower rent or mortgage, and our whole team is in Northwest Arkansas. So that I think that gives a lot of flexibility on the things that we can do. But also, we have the extra added chip on our shoulder to bring people outside of from the coast. Sure, great things can come from Middle America.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was one of the most frustrating conversations I had all last week.
He was at CES.
Yeah. And just, people would read my badge, people would read my badge and say Arkansas, and they would, what are you doing here? What's going on? Like almost sarcastically, so what's going on in Arkansas? And then we had a conversation yesterday.
Feel free to slap them when you do that.
That's how I felt like it.
I'll give you authority.
Somebody folded my arms after that question, and they immediately said, "Oh, we're getting defensive." And I said, "I'm just folding my arms." But on the podcast we did yesterday, we talked about the opportunity to exceed expectations when you do deliver on what you're working on, and that chip on your shoulder. You have the opportunity to. They don't expect much, so there's opportunity to really just blow them out of the water.
Let's show them.
Yeah. So
I mean, I don't know any other startup out of Arkansas that went to Techstar Seattle. I know we've had some go to Austin. But yeah, it was just interesting. Most people didn't know where Arkansas was.
Exactly.
They couldn't even find it on a map. They're definitely
had that comment a couple times too.
Geographical challenge.
Yeah,
that's all right.
I mean, we also had comments on our name, Rejoicy, and I mean, it was like, we thought it was fun, the revolution of joy. It sounds juicy too, and people were like, oh, that sounds religious. Rejoicy sounds religious. I was like, and so it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, very different.
One of your investors is not the 700 Club. You're probably okay, right? Even though we are close to Tulsa. Pat Robertson and Oral Roberts are not on the cap table. They're not.
So Edwin, we see a lot of people getting into e-commerce these days or online marketplaces. What kind of advice do you have? Obviously, Rejoicy is very different in the website builder aspect, and obviously the local focus, but what kind of advice do you have for entrepreneurs trying to get into the space in any aspect?
It's a great question. I think step one is get online, right? If you're not selling online, find a way to get online. And Rejoice is a great tool, by the way, but just
a little plug.
Start selling online. I think it's the first step, and I think getting products there is is the beginning, but I think making sure that you utilize your network. Like tell people that about it. Like tell your friends, tell the friends of your friends, and start utilizing like that network around you to create a market. I think a lot of times we're scared to tell the people that we know, like, hey, you know what? Like I just started this business. You should, go check it out. Maybe you find something that you want to buy. I think I would say utilize the existing network, because getting ads and all this stuff that you see, it's expensive and it's super saturated. So you're not going to get much.
It's a hard place to start for sure on that side.
It is. And I think the other portion is find where your customers. So once you have some customers, find out where they are and be where they are. Like if your customers love to go, to the farmers market, well, be at the farmers market. If your customer, and make it the easiest you can for them, right? So if, let's say you are starting at the farmers market and you don't have an e-commerce website. Well, now, add a link to your website on your packaging, a QR code. So when they can't find you at the farmers market, they can still buy your product. And you can still, leverage those customers outside of the current channels just to make it as easy as you can for them. I think the biggest advice is that I think e-commerce on its own is not important. Is the fact that your customers are there that matters. And I think the goal is just be where your customers are, and I think that's really the biggest thing.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic.
So you start off by saying, tell everyone about your business. So spread the gospel of your business.
Rejoicing.
It is a religious thing. That's it.
Yes.
I'll send you.
Yeah, it is religious, but the religion is capitalist.
Exactly.
It's how to help people sell more stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
No, that's great.
I'll invoice you for that one. We own. Well, got plenty. So Edwin, is it time to land the plane?
I think it's time to land the plane.
Okay, all right.
Land the plane. Hit the back landing gear.
Yeah. Of course, you've been here before. You know that we asked this question. To go back in time to give your younger self advice based on what you've learned during the process. We asked you that question before. So I guess you can take a look back to before Rejoicy, or even, if you want to go back further before Luncher, what advice might you give yourself rolling back the clock?
Oh man, I think, in terms of the, my entrepreneurial journey, I feel that the advice is always just start now. And I think when I look back, I don't regret the fact that, we've done things that didn't work. Is the fact that we didn't do it sooner. We could have learned, faster and gotten there, that we thought about it too much and then, didn't take that step. So if I was to go back and talk to my younger self, would be that, just start testing stuff. And you don't have to leave your day job if you have a day job, and you don't have to do any of the crazy scary things to get started. Start with a small test. Just see if there's one person that would buy what you're trying to sell.
If you had the fortune of hindsight, going back before Luncher, would you have started Luncher or Rejoicy?
Oh man, that's knowing all the pains,
knowing everything you've
totally do it.
Yeah,
totally do it. Yeah, I mean that's yeah. I think so. I think there's a lot of people who say oh no, I would never go through that, or no. I think I would.
Would you have done it in that order? Would if you go back and say, would you do Luncher first and then Rejoicy, or would you which one would be a priority? I know it's putting you in a tight spot.
No, I think I would have done Rejoicy, and I think I would have done Rejoicy versus Luncher, because I think there's a lot of things that we were close on Luncher, but not quite there.
Yeah.
And I think it was. I think I would have done Rejoicy and with some of the capabilities that we had built in Luncher. I think the idea of efficiencies is really important, and I think that's something that we're learning and we're applying on Rejoicy. I think the idea of serving an underserved market, which is micro businesses and small businesses, I think that's a huge thing that we're still doing, and that a lot of people are scared of. But it's okay, that's really where most of the problems are.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of underserved.
It's 99% of the business.
Yeah, there's so many underserved
Yeah.
needs there that if you're willing to put in the work, I think it's totally worth it. So yeah, I think I would have started with Rejoicy, but I don't think we would have gotten where we are without Luncher. I think that
was a necessary step.
Yeah, I think it's a necessary step. I think we would have had more pain trying to figure some of those things with Rejoicy if it wasn't for that first experience.
So to help expand your brand, our listeners are in 100 countries. Now we think we probably only got 1 or 2 people in Belarus, but we're in 100 countries. So that said, where can they best find out about Rejoicy, your story? How can they best connect?
Or sign up.
Sign up.
So you can go to rejoicy.com. That is rejoicy.com. And then there's like 9 or 10 buttons there that you click any of them and it will help you create a shop on the landing page. I'm serious. Like I said,
Just close your eyes and press the button.
Press any of them, and your website's created.
Buttons, and it'll take you to the shop creator, and you can start creating the shop there. If you want to talk to me, I think probably the best way is through email at edwin@rejoicy.com. That is edwin@rejoicy.com, or through LinkedIn.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
His phone number is 479.
Yeah, that's right.
Security number. Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. It's always great to catch up.
Keep
Keep fighting a good fight.
It was great.
Thank you, guys.
It's absolutely fun to watch you do it.